You and me, darling. Two bees in a pod. Two ducks in a pond. Two Red Bulls in a refrigerator. Two spark plugs in a car. Two cucumbers in a grocery bag. Two bottles of champagne on VIP night at the Ritz-Carlton on a drizzly Thursday afternoon.
Oh, I don't know. 9.
No.
5.
No, you have to think.
I'm trying to.
It's 2, darling.
2.
It's 2. Like us, a pair. 2 little ducks in a pond.
And today we have Maestro, 3rd year in a row. I have seen every Best Picture nominee in the theater, and this will be the last review out of all of those. I've reviewed every Best Picture nominee, basically, so I've been through the gauntlet. I can't get a vibe check on this one with people. Like, I keep hearing articles talking about this movie in both positive and negative lights, and people definitely have an opinion on it. Trailer for this movie happened. I saw Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan, and it was like, oh, this is the second film that he's made, and it pays homage to some type of musical composer of some sort. I did not yet know it was Bernstein, and that it was going to be color, black and white, and potentially sad, but that it would be energetic and full of music and some vibrance and all that jazz. Good enough to be Best Picture, right? Right? A lot is being thrown around out there in the discourse regarding Bradley Cooper, and if he's in it for the ego and the accolades, or if he's in it for the art. I'm not really sure if I have an opinion one way or the other, but that being said, he directed it. I mean, mostly he's known as an actor, but Bradley Cooper has directed Maestro. It's the second film he's done, the first one being, as I'm sure you might know, actually, A Star is Born. Somehow, for some reason, I still have not seen that damn movie. I know there's the whole Lady Gaga being like, oh no, 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 and I get what I mean, and like the whole, My Beautiful Rendition pales in comparison, I know. Aside from that, the only things he's directed are, like, funny enough, Lady Gaga music videos. There's a lot you could know him from, a lot. Stuff that's made it into Best Picture nominees in the past, but I think most notable, a lot of dude bros might know him as one of the main characters in the Hangover series, so he's been in that. I think one of my favorite roles of his was a soft remake of Nightmare Alley, which I loved Nightmare Alley, so I thought he killed it as, Carlisle, or the huckster. But of course, you might also know him as, I've recently covered him from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with Rocket Raccoon. He's the voice of Rocket Raccoon. He's a talented and prolific actor. Like, I think he can do a variety of roles, and this movie's no exception. Another name you've seen on the poster for sure would be Carey Mulligan, who I've covered multiple times on my channel, surprisingly. Most recently, I might have made mention of her when I reviewed Saltburn earlier this year, so funny enough. Talk about Oscar snubs, by the way, but neither here nor there. She was also in another movie that I covered back in the day. She's starred in Promising Young Woman. And then if you want to go back even further, she also killed it in The Great Gatsby, the Leo version with the whole, that whole thing. Question of the day is Maestro good? I mean, I'm not going to bury the lead here. Out of all the Best Picture nominees, it's my least favorite. It's the bottom of the totem pole here. And not to say that it's like a shit film, far from it, but I was almost like confused watching this movie. We'll start with the pros. In terms of direction and all that, it's well shot, and it's like a fun, well shot. Like the direction is like in sequences throughout the film. It just has a vibrancy to it and a liveliness, and even as things get kind of like sad and depressing as the movie continues and the camera kind of cools down a bit more and direction doesn't get too spry or anything. There's a lot of sequences in the first half that harken back to, funny enough, greater works, but like La La Land. Like I got vibes of La La Land when he first meets Carey Mulligan's character back in the day, and like I just made me think of that movie. As a director, I've only seen one of the 2 films Bradley Cooper's done, but clearly being an actor, maybe you get a little bit of knowledge behind the camera and you see how things work on a set, and clearly that goes to this. There's some cool shots that visually are like kind of setups that eventually reveal more, or some cool there are a lot of cool transitions in this film. Direction, like directionally, it works. It's good. I liked it. Tacking on to that, I did like the choice to incorporate both black and white and color in the film. I think I understand from a story perspective how it worked. Black and white is kind of in Bernstein's heyday, I guess, like back when he maybe had more pure, free-flowing, altruistic, like in his most amiable kind of era, I guess. I guess before he kind of started to lose his way and get lost in the sauce, as it were. Because then when things kind of take that turn, then it goes to color. And suddenly funny enough, it's almost the opposite effect of like color opening that Wizard of Oz Wonderland, right? It's like the color hits, reality sets back in, and then, you know, his character changes in a not great way until he kind of comes back towards a path of redemption, kind of, sure, sort of, eventually. So it's weird. We'll get to that in a bit. Performances. I have no context for how Bernstein was as a person, or in interviews, or character. I was aware of the name. I was vaguely aware of different musical tie-ins to the name. I was vaguely aware of them. I know that when they played a track from West Side Story in this movie, I recognized it, and I was like, oh, that's from West Side Story. I know of composers. I could rattle off a few names, you know, Beethoven, Dostoevsky, Tchaikovsky, like, you know, sure, but do I know the actual, like, pieces and compositions, and, you know, Symphony No. 9 or Beethoven's Fifth or Rhapsody in Blue? Like, I wouldn't have a very extensive catalog as I would of film knowledge. So this film is like my gateway and entry into this, and I both learned some stuff, but also I'm still confused. All that to say, it seems like, you know, nose makeup, prosthetic, and old man makeup included in, he seems to embody the character well. I feel like everybody in the movie acted very well. I feel like it was, I never was taken out of it by anyone's performances, whether it was smaller roles, cameos, big starring whatevers, like everybody acted great. And of course the music. I don't know how much of this movie had or utilized an original score versus actual, like, you know, Bernstein's greatest hits. The music was great, which it's meant to be. It's all about a conductor and his personal life as he skyrocketed to fame back in the day, so there's gonna be music. But then we get into the kind of the cons, right? Like, this movie had some tonal issues for sure, especially in the last 5 minutes. I could never quite tell if it was trying to, like, it would be fun and lighthearted, and it was through most of the first half, but especially from like the midway point to the end, it bounced back and forth between being like the dramatized biopic of sorts to then being like a soap opera marriage in a way, or just like marital troubles, and, you know, you have your usual like, oh, this movie's nominated for an Oscar, there's gonna be some big like argument in here between our not so happy couple. The incorporation of humor in some spots, and then how like a scene would be handled and taken super seriously, and the next thing you know, you kind of like switch gears and it's like not as serious, or the characters are doing something in it and you're like, why would you? It's kind of, okay, I guess this is fine. Like, especially the ending, the last 5 minutes, like he went from loss and grief and then to teaching, and then immediately like partying it up in the club. It's just like, oh, okay, sure. No, I don't even know if this is a valid criticism or not. I wasn't sure what the narrative message was supposed to be. Like, normally with a biopic like this, you might have like, there's a message to be communicated, or a threat, like a narrative through line for the story of this character, or you see the rise and fall, you see an arc, and technically this movie does have that, but this movie, like, its focus was, I felt like it was split and it shifted around a little bit. And like, on one hand, I'm glad that the focus was both his career as well as his tumultuous love life and affairs, and the bisexual sleeping around, and the kind of absentee husband and father and all that. But I don't know. I got to a point where I felt like the movie that I assumed was about Bernstein's career, kind of that part took a back seat to this like family drama that's kind of awkwardly progressing and unfolding, and just, I don't know if there was like something to be taken away from it, or a lesson to be learned, or just, and then like eventually he kind of like comes around, and things that were shouted at arguments are, you know, a few scenes later suddenly forgiven. A lot of it didn't feel earned. There are emotional moments in this film, and I'm almost positive the people that were in the theater with us were getting choked up at and, you know, crying during certain scenes. And normally, I'm a sucker for a good cry. I love it when a movie can work me up like that and get the waterworks going. I love a good cry in a sad boy hours movie. This movie had sad scenes, and it was weird. I felt like I should have been crying. Hell, there were scenes there was a scene that was practically ripped out of The Notebook. And yet I was sitting there stone-faced, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, I should be emotional right now, but I'm not. And, you know, call me cold-hearted if you will. And I was trying to get into the movie, but I honestly just felt like the emotional moments in the movie weren't entirely earned, oddly enough. I just wasn't able to connect to these characters. And so even though some of what happened could have resonated very much with me because I've had sickness in my family, I didn't get that connection. My friend I went to go see it with felt the same way, so I wonder how many people out there it simply just did not resonate with. Also, here's the thing. When it comes to accents back in the day, believe me, one of my favorite accents to do is like transatlantic, right? Especially with Has Been Hotel coming out recently. I've been obsessing over Alistair.
Well, my dear, I haven't been active in hell for some time, and everyone remembers me from my radio show.
I love the transatlantic accent. Not to say that's what these characters are speaking, but they kind of have that old-timey way about them where it's like, oh yes, darling, of course, darling, I see what you mean now, yes.
So you moved to Chile because of your father's business, and now you're firmly planted in New York City, studying piano, but you're actually studying acting.
The accent's fine, I like it, but man, they get lost in that accent sometimes, and I should have watched this on Netflix with subtitles, because there are some scenes where they're just like talking and like low-key like trailing off or talking a mile a minute, or just the words aren't being enunciated clearly. He does the accent too well, if that's how Bernstein talked, because it's oftentimes in this film difficult to understand what our main characters are saying. And the last note that I had was pacing. Funny enough, I was thinking of Napoleon when I was watching this film, like the movie Napoleon, which was also a good movie, but it felt like Maestro would have been better, either with an extra 30 minutes maybe, or if it was like a mini-series or something like that. The movie felt like a highlight reel. The pacing was quick, it moved fast, which is funny to say because there are a couple scenes that I thought lingered a little bit too long, but I guess it was to let the emotion of the character and the scenes like settle in. I get that. There were like 3 or 4 of Bernstein's like career accomplishments and accolades, with everybody just kind of fawning over him in the background, and then the rest of it were like these highlights of him and his wife, him and his daughter, him and his lover, him and lover number 2, him and lover number 3, and like it just felt like I was watching the highlights from this guy's life, and I don't know, it lacked focus for me. I mean, it's a good movie. I mean, it's solid. I'd love to see Bradley Cooper make more, and I would love to go back and watch A Star Is Born, because that, if I recall, received like universal like critical praise. It was also funny because there were a bunch of old people in our showing for this movie, and I swear the guy behind us, like as soon as the Netflix logo showed up, because we were in a movie theater, right? So this old timer saw that and like, whoa, Netflix, like they make movies on this screen too. And then later there was a sad scene, and it was weird because I don't know if he was crying or dying, because a sad scene happened and he went like, oh, and I was like, what? And then you just hear like labored breathing, like it's just like, this man is dying in the theater, but neither here nor there. Old people are funny, that's all I'm saying. I don't know if I would go as far as to say Best Picture nominee. I think Bradley knew some people in Hollywood. Best Actor? Sure. Best Lead Role? Yeah, why not? He really put his whole he put his whole pussy into it. The least deserves the nomination for it. But all things considered, Maestro is a good film that is fun in parts, very melancholic through most of it, and it leaves you, at least leaves me, but leaves you not really sure how to feel. Tone was kind of all over the place, the mood, the emotion of it, and the story. I wasn't sure what I'm supposed to take away from that movie, aside from like, okay, well, this was a movie that starts with an old Bernstein, an old man that's gonna now reminisce about his life for like 2 hours 10 minutes or something like that, which is fine. But like, so is he just reminiscing about his loved again and lost one more time? Is he reminiscing about his career? Reminiscing about who he was versus who he became and is? Like, hard to say, I don't know. There's a lot you could take away from this film, but I left it feeling not too much, and like I said, out of all the Oscar nominees, it's my least favorite. But I'd give Maestro still I'll give it like a high 3 out of 5. A high 3 out of 5 for me. It's still above average in terms of quality. I think you want to watch a movie like this, if you want to watch Maestro, go watch like La La Land instead. Or hell, Past Lives. That's all I gotta say about Maestro. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. As of recording this, I am severely behind in film reviews. I've seen so many movies, and I gotta catch up and get the reviews out there. And March Madness is upon us now, so it's gonna take a minute to get caught up. But thank you as always for following along. I'm glad that I at least got to get this uploaded in time for the Oscars, and so you've now seen my take on all of them. If I have time, doubt it. If I have time, I'll make a quick little Oscar prediction video, but I don't know, we'll see. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever I make. And goodbye, travelers.